Hey friends, and welcome to another episode of Field Notes, insights and observations for the travel marketer. Fresh off the plane from Massachusetts, we took our new paper that's coming out very soon, AI for Travel version 2.0. We've got a talk around that. We gave it this week in Massachusetts, or should I say, I did, and I wanted to make sure that we shared it with you as soon as humanly possible. So enjoy our latest talk on AI and travel. Thank you, Zoe. Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
That is amazing. All right, I'm going to start today with the most powerful sentence in the human language. Can I tell you a story? Awesome. This is Maya. Maya wakes and stretches, and the room that she's currently in, the light matches a sunlight coming in from her room, even though it's still dark outside. The ambient temperature in the room starts to rise to match her preferred temperature. In the kitchen, her favorite blend of coffee is being percolated into her favorite mug. That mug will keep her coffee the perfect temperature through noon because Maya is very bad at finishing coffee in the morning. It takes her almost all day. When she gets up out of bed, her AI assistant lets her know that her flight to San Juan has been booked, her favorite chair has been selected, and there's a restaurant reservation waiting for her in San Juan with Brad at 9 o'clock Seaside. In the other room, her phone dings with the same notification. Her phone also notices that the route to work has gotten slower this morning. So it picks a new route for her and then notifies those that she's meeting in the morning that there's an 8-minute delay to that meeting. So she pushes the meeting by 8 minutes. She also has her PTO approved by an AI assistant that sends to her boss's AI assistant overnight while she's not even awake. And she is ready to take this trip that she's been waiting for because she has been waiting with her AI assistant to get the perfect price for a trip to San Juan. And so she is out the door and ready to take this trip after she has this meeting, and she's never uttered a word, and she's barely brushed her teeth. Welcome to the future. Except these are all things that can happen right now using AI assistants. And so I want to start this morning with a question, and that question is this. If I were to ask each and every one of you, what does it mean to be found right now for your DMO? How would you answer that? Is it traffic? Do we say heads and beds? Is it engagement? What are the things that we're measuring right now to say that we have been found by a traveler? Because as you saw this morning, travelers are all mobile. Social media is now bringing you conversion. They're finding ways to travel and places to go on TikTok and Instagram. And more often than not, they're using ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or Gronk or Gemini or Copilot or whatever to find out about your location. And if you're unfamiliar with this way of travel, that's fine. They call it zero-click searches. It's a very simple definition. It just means that the traveler has found the information that they want and maybe even done a conversion without ever visiting your website. And if you've been to one AI marketing talk, you've been to a million, and this is the part where I'm supposed to tell you that your website is broken and you don't need it, except that's not what I'm going to say, because I don't think fear is the right posture right now. Instead, what I want to do is ask another question. If a traveler makes a decision without visiting your website, did you actually lose? Do you care about the web traffic or do you care about the conversion? We are calling this the Copernicus moment. The idea here is not just in travel, but everywhere in every corner of the marketing world. There's lots of businesses that thought that their website was the shiny center of the universe. And much like Copernicus, we're finding out that it's just a tool. And it's a tool that is less important and more important all at once. Except this time it's less important to humans and more important to the machines. So I want you for a second this morning to imagine this. We're going to do a little prompt engineering, right? So we're going to take this prompt. Whoa. Or we're going to just go through all of the slides in 7 seconds because we're running late. Okay. My wife and I want to take our kids on a trip in October. Our budget is $1,500. We love vintage diners, burgers, fall colors, near water, opportunity to kayak, and we want something to do that isn't in the brochure. Now, what happens if I take, you've already seen all the slides, so maybe I don't need to ask this question, but what happens if I take this prompt and shove it into Google right now? I will show you, hopefully. It breaks. So I took that prompt and I shoved it into Google 2 days ago, and it told me to go to the Ocean Reef Community Foundation. It told me to go to Washington State. It told me to go to Ethiopia. I am not sure, because I've not been to Ethiopia. I'm guessing they don't have fall colors, right? And here's the thing, this shows where it breaks for the traveler, because I'm going to give you an example from Michigan. What we had to do in Google, even yesterday, is I had to type in, what are the best places to go to fall colors? And if I'm a traveler, now I have to read through all of these. I have to make my own notes. I have to build my own itinerary. I know we built itineraries in here, but if I'm using Google even today, this happened a week ago, right? I have to do all of this work. Now, if I take that same prompt and I dump it into ChatGPT, this is what happens. It tells me, let's make the trip into 2 micro-regions. We're going to go to Western Mass first for foliage, and the South Shore for water and kayaking and coastal weirdness. Don't know what that means, but I'm already excited, right? And the best part about this, comparing the 2 experiences as a traveler, it tells me how to stay on budget. Okay, we're not going to book a hotel in Boston, totally fine. Book early, absolutely. Treat diners and picnic stops as they're part of the experience. So I'm going to tell my kids, hey, this is part of the experience, right? And it gets better. It walks me through what it might look like, right? Photos of the Berkshires. Photos of the South Shore. As somebody who's never seen a cranberry farm, I am all in right now, right? And then it goes further to talk me through how this is a great place for diners. And if I love diners, this is absolutely where I should go. And there might be some of you in this room who go, if he asked me what to do for fall, these are not the 3 things I would show him, right? But here's what I'm going to tell you. It's very easy at this point to say that's AI's fault, but it's not. It's ours. It went out looking for answers. These are the answers it brought me. And then there's Google. In the last 10 days, they have done the largest update to Google Maps ever. They've done this thing called immersive navigation that you may or may not care about, but what I like about immersive navigation is it now gives you kind of a sense of parking. So if you're going to a new city and you don't really know how to park, which is probably the most stressful part about going to a new city, the immersive navigation will help you. That's not the interesting part to you. The interesting part to you is Ask Maps. Now, Ask Maps, powered by Gemini, allows Google Maps to create, wait for it, itineraries without using your website, and allow people to know where they're going to go and then create an entire itinerary for what they are going to do when they get here for fall colors. My favorite part, and they don't call it this, but my favorite part is what I'm calling the side quests. So it's going to use your Google searches, your YouTube views, and your Gemini usage to find things along the route that you might find interesting and tell you, hey, you said diners, there's one over here, you should check this out. You like kayaking, don't forget this spot. And as long as we're talking about Google, right, we want to focus on the other 2 that we should pay attention to. These are the main 3 that I think are of interest right now. And I want to pause for a half second. 2 things. If I'm going too fast with the slides, I can go without them if you need photos. Also, at the end will be all my information. I will happily send this entire deck to you. But take all the photos you want. Feel free. But these are the 3 that I would focus on. Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude. Gemini specifically because A, it's the Google ecosystem, and B, Gemini is the backbone of the iPhone for Siri. They've made that decision. And if you have not heard, Meta is struggling with their AI called Avocado, and they have come to Gemini to have them help them. So you're going to have Gemini in Meta, and Gemini in iPhones, and Gemini in Google. So it should be an important part of what we're paying attention to. And then ChatGPT and Claude. And this is how it works. The AI interprets intent, as you saw with the search, and it takes that intent and it evaluates trust. What are the sources out there that I can trust? And then it takes all of that trust and puts it in a bucket and makes sense for me across the universe and gives me that fall foliage itinerary. And as long as we're talking about all this, and I'm in a room of people that work in the travel space, if you do anything in the video space, I would make sure that those videos are showing up in YouTube Shorts right now. If you're not using YouTube Shorts and you don't have a YouTube Shorts strategy, that is fine. But YouTube, being the second largest search engine in the world and part of Google and Gemini, I would want to make sure that my DMO, my attraction, my place, shows up in shorts when people start looking for it. Because what we have to do is we have to assume that the AI is finding our destination before the traveler does. And why is this important? Well, then we have to think, okay, what does the AI need to know in order to tell the traveler that they should come see us? Because the way that you show up in those retrievals is the way that you show up to the traveler. And I think this tends to get lost in rooms where we're talking about AI. What AI is pulling is the same thing that the traveler is bumping into. So if you have something like great for families on your website, or great for families in blogs or in social posts, I would urge you to stop doing that. And here's why. 1, what kind of families? 2, how many families? 3, if I'm an AI and I see great for families, I don't know what that means, so I'm going to pass it by. And one of the ways that we need to think about AI when it comes to travel is this idea of metacognition, thinking about thinking. So the idea that we sit around and we, as an individual, figure out what's the best way that I know how to learn, what's the best way that I know how to teach, and what's the best way that I can ask questions to other people in my office or in the real world, and use all of that energy to ask better questions of my AI in order to get the help that we need to find the travelers that we want, to go to the things that we own. So instead of great for families, as a group, large or small, whatever your DMO has, we get together and do a little thinking about thinking and go, what kind of families, right? How old are the kids? What is the pace of travel? How risk averse are they? What do they want to do? Do they want to walk? Do they want to hike? Do they want to swim? Do they want to do nothing? And what's their budget? And how many of these groups in just families, and then couples, and then individuals, and then can we as a DMO create and understand? Because when you start doing this, you get a photo of who the family is, right? Right before we started talking, somebody was asking me about my radio career. I worked for iHeart for a long time, and early on in that radio career, when we'd have somebody new who would be struggling to be in a dark room talking by themselves for 4 hours and making sense of the world, we would take a cardboard cutout and put it in front of them and say, this is Karen. Karen is 23. She just bought her first apartment. She drives a 3-year-old Subaru. She makes about this amount of money a year. She loves to go out on Friday and Saturday night and likely owns a cat. Now I have a picture of who I'm talking to, right? Now I have a picture. And once I've got that picture, then I have to ask some questions. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions right now. And what I'm looking for you is not to shout out answers, although I would not be offended by that, but I want you to think deeply about them because they matter to your organization right now. So question number 1. I swear. There we go. When your team has a good idea about content, where does it go? Is it in text? Is it in DMs? Is it in Slack? Is it in Drive? Is it in Teams? Is it in email? Where is it? And more importantly, if you guys do that offsite 3 months ago, where are those memories and those ideas so we can get back to them and continue to use them? Because we're doing thinking about thinking. If that person who quote unquote gets AI leaves tomorrow, what do they take with them? How are we planning for the future? I mean, step 1, make sure they don't leave, right? Step 2, if they are going to leave, who's the second person that can help them? Are they going to take systems with them or just a philosophy, or what goes with them, and how are we insulating ourselves if that person leaves? And third, what did you measure last week? Engagement? Or did you measure whether or not somebody found you when they asked AI a question you should own? And the follow-up to this question, does your organization have a list of questions that you know that you own? What questions should you own? What questions should you not own? And what questions would you aspirationally love to own? Because let's level set here. For some context, this is based off a 2025 late survey from Microsoft showing the number of people that are using AI. Quickly, for some context, if you survey anyone in the marketing universe, it ranges from 75% to 90%. We are not represented on here, right? These are humans. 84% of the planet has never come in contact with an AI. So we're still early, right? The green down there is free users or users that may or may not just be using AI to figure out how to make sourdough, right? It doesn't work in all rooms, don't worry about it. Okay, the yellow are people who are paying for one or more service, and they're getting serious about AI. And the tiny red dot, 3.2 million people, are the ones that are doing all the heavy coding. So two things here. One, it's still early in this technology. Two, it won't be early for long. And three, if you do a ton of time on TikTok or Reddit or wherever you're learning about AI, you think that that red dot is the entire map. And I'm here to show you that it's not. I'm also here to show you that right now, in its current state, we've done a bunch of surveys and we found that there's about 3 DMOs working in the AI space. The first one we're calling the dabbler. Using one LLM, occasional prompting, no shared system, output heavy, signal light, just meaning like we don't really know what happens when we put the AI content out into the world, and you're just starting to come to the understanding that not paying for a large language model is no longer optional. If you are still using a free service, you should change that immediately, because that is one, how you get a ton of hallucinations, and two, you're 3 or 4 or 5 models behind the paid, and that is a competitive disadvantage if you're not paying. The second group, these are those who are using it as a production stack. Multiple tools, faster content, some automation, better efficiency, but not designed around how AI is actually going to find you. This is a team that is putting out a ton of content using AI to do that, but not really grasping how they're found in the AI space. And then the aspirational one, there are not a ton of people in this space, but this is where we're aiming for. Designed for AI. Clarity, cross-platform reinforcement, structured content, a memory layer, right? So you remember and it remembers, and measurement beyond traffic. But I want to point out here, this is not a call to stop measuring traffic. Traffic is still important. This is just one more thing happening, but we have to aim towards figuring out how we get found with the AI systems. Because the real risk, friends, is not did you pick the wrong LLM? Because what I would say is that's like going to Lowe's and picking a hammer versus a saw, right? They're different tools for different things. It's what we're calling this accidental infrastructure that you want to avoid. If you do not have a point of view as a DMO on AI, you should have one, because what's actually happening is your team members have their own infrastructure in their head, and each one of them is using something different in a different way, and maybe exposing some of your data to train up these AI models that some of your competitors can use if you don't have an infrastructure. If you don't have a plan and you don't have clear lanes of what goes into ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever and what does not. I want to stop here for a half second and just say you don't need this, okay? We're not here yet. And I say that because most people in this room, if you're hearing about OpenClaw or know what OpenClaw is, it's kind of the technology that would make the story at the beginning work. What's going to happen instead is Claude and OpenAI are going to create something, and most people, especially travelers, are going to use a technology like this, an AI assistant with a piece of software over the top of it. They're not going to write their own, my mom is not going to write her own code to book trips to Boston, right? That's not what's going to happen. So one of the other things that I wanted to do today is I wanted to leave you with something you could actually do this afternoon. So I'm going to do 2 things that you can actually do this afternoon. But the first one is a game we call Where's the Campaign? Now, if you've worked in marketing for 5 seconds, you understand this game. This game is, we built a campaign. There's 5 people on our team. All 5 of them have different parts of the campaign, and it's very hard to get all of that stuff in one fell swoop. Some of it is on their computer. Some of it is in our cloud space, some of it is on a notebook somewhere, and some of it is on a whiteboard, right? So how can we bring all of those things together, and what tools could we use if we haven't done a ton of work in AI in order to do that? So here's what we're going to use: Claude, HubSpot, and Gemini. Now, if you're not using HubSpot, don't sweat it. Just replace that with whatever email client you're using. If it's MailChimp or Constant Contact or whatever, put them in the middle, right? So with Claude, we're going to open it up and we're going to give it our destination brief. Who's the target traveler? What's our budget window? And have it build the whole thing, not a list of ideas. This is a chance for you, if you've never played in the agentic AI, the agent space, to do it a little agent light. What I like to do is give it all of this and then tell it not to come back to me until it has put this all together and proven why it will work, either using context that you've already given it or sources that it has out in the wild world, right? We're going to tell it we want a theme, an audience segment, messaging for each, an email sequence, social, 6-week rollout, and this long context window, meaning we can have much longer content windows or conversations with Claude than with maybe some of the others, will allow us to keep this whole thing together. The next thing is we're going to put it into HubSpot and deploy it, right? HubSpot's going to use its AI to figure out where the traveler is, in what phase they're in, write the variants, do A/B testing, and figure out which one converts and adapt accordingly. I was in Portland last week, and one of the DMOs there is doing a really fascinating experiment with HubSpot, where each week they send out an email to about 100,000 subscribers. And what they're moving towards is they're doing all of this, A/B testing, optimizing, but what they want to move towards, as opposed to sending one email to 100,000 people with minor variants, they're trying to send out 100,000 individual emails that feel like they wrote it for you using the automation and AI in HubSpot. And they're not there yet, but they're getting there. And then Gemini, right? We're going to drop the strategy doc into Google Docs, turn it into a 12-page brief, and then a 1-page leadership summary to send up the chain, and then an ops list checklist. Now everybody is working from, sorry, I was totally in your way. Everybody is working from the same song sheet, and you can get together and execute these campaigns. And more importantly, if you're in leadership or have to answer to leadership, you can pull the data and the details quickly, which is important. One more thing I want to call to your attention if you're not using it, because it's my favorite. This is Notebook LM. It's also a Google product. Internally at Advance, we no longer, at least on the travel side, we no longer make internal slide decks. We have Notebook do it because it's a waste of time to design stuff to just show to your coworkers because they don't care about the pretty pictures, right? They just care about the information. So if you've not played with Notebook, it is great for internal slides. For the sales team, all of this information is coming from a white paper that we have coming out in about a month. We take all of that and we shove it into Notebook LM, and it creates quizzes for them so they understand what's in the document and how to use it, slides that they can give to clients, and all of that stuff comes out of Notebook. This is a great tool for that. It's also a great tool for learning. If there's a part of AI that you don't know and want to know, this is a great place to build your own college-level class using sources and have it run you through what you want to do. I can't say enough great things about Notebook. I love playing in that space. So, what now? What do I want you to do? The very first thing I would like you to do is audit your website. If you have not taken a deep dive for your website in the last 18 months, I want you to do that ASAP. And what we're looking for is stuff like this: an unforgettable destination for everyone. A sentence that says nothing, right? And the sentence says nothing, and we've all used a sentence like this, but when we're talking to the AI, it won't know what to do with this. So anytime we bump into any of this stuff on our website, in blogs, on landing pages, whatever, we're putting it on the list, and we're getting rid of it, right? Because what we want is clarity over cleverness. With your website specifically, the only thing you want is to be found. You don't want somebody to say, well, that's a really cute quip you have on your website. That's not going to help you right now. Clarity is going to help you right now. And then we're going to play around with context chunking. You can see an example from a blog on advanced travel and tourism on the right, but it's the idea that we're using headers and we're writing in a way that allows a large language model, an LLM, Claude, Copilot, those sorts of things, to pull out chunks of text and understand what they mean without the chunk above it or the chunk below it. So now we are writing differently than we have before because we're not writing for human consumption. Humans love video, specifically about cats, right? But humans love video, and AI loves text because it can make sense of text. It has a very difficult time with video, so it's not really interested in your video, but it is interested in this. And then we're going to align our signals across platforms. We have moved in the last 8 years from what used to be called the social network, connections of connections, to the interest network, where people are just seeing things that they're interested in. And this allows us to do a couple of things. One, it frees us from caring about followers because they don't really matter anymore. Especially if you're on TikTok a lot, you know that 80 or 90% of your consumption is done by people who aren't actually following you. And so what that means is if our Instagram is luxury and our Facebook and our Facebook is families, we probably want to align that differently and or have conversations about launching new handles that go after the luxury traveler and go after the family traveler because they're not the same person. And the ability to not care about followers and just care about a story that reaches people allows us to play around in that space. The last thing, and I don't meet too many people that do this, I want you to go to all of these AI tools, and we're just going to use the prompt that I gave you at the beginning. In this case, you use your prompt, right? But in this case, I would go to these AI tools and I would type this in or copy and paste it in, right? This is the same one we used at the beginning. And then I would find out in each one of these, where am I found? How many times am I found? And what are they saying about my location? And anything that's factually incorrect, I know I need to make more content to correct that factual inaccuracy. And if any one of these likes me more than the other, I want to spend some time trying to figure out why. Why does chat seem to get the answer right all the time and Gemini does not, or vice versa, right? Because what we're aiming for is this idea of dexterity over literacy. And this is a big difference. Because early on, most people wanted to get after literacy. They wanted to be certified in ChatGPT. They wanted to be a prompt engineer. But literacy is the idea of knowing what those tools are called. But right now, what's more important is dexterity, being able to move. Because the ground is shifting a lot. And as a DMO, wherever you are in your career in that organization, if you are waiting for everything to be the same, you're going to be exhausted by all of this. Because I'm going to say this, and I mean it, this is as bad as AI is ever going to be. It's only going to get better. So if you're exhausted now, just think where you're going to be next year when we're in Central Mass, right? However, if you approach it that this energizes you, that you love the chaos, and you think to yourself when you see a graph like this, that there's opportunity here. When are these people going to start to use it more? You will find that you're empowered and ready to play in this space and ready to be found by AI. Because the TDLR, and we'll get into questions and answers here in a second, but the TDLR is influence begins before the click now. But the actual reality of it is it always has, right? It's always been people who have traveled to a place and come back and told friends, and then it shows up digitally and. And I'll tell you a very quick story. I came in late last night and went straight to Salem because I wanted to get a sense of this place as opposed to just coming straight to the hotel and then doing this and then leaving and never getting any experience here, right? Because I'm from Michigan, and so I wanted to get a sense. And I didn't use any of your tools. ChatGPT put me through all of the Salem paces. Everything was closed last night, but I got to see a lot of the sites and I got to eat some amazing food, but I didn't use any of your stuff, right? And I'm not alone in that. And so we need to make sure that we are understanding that that is how people are traveling. And even if they're getting the wrong answer, it's because if we go all the way back to that beginning Google search, it's because the Google search ecosystem, the Bing ecosystem, the DuckDuckGo, whichever one, it has failed them. It has failed them. And with that, this is all my information. If you want the deck, text me, email me, however you want to do that. I've got about 15 minutes for questions-ish, and I would love to take some. Go ahead.
So we're at the early adoption.
Yeah, sure, yep.
I don't know that I know how to do many of the things you talked about in any of your ChatGPT or whatever. Are there good sources for tutorials that are not 17 hours long, but that can like walk us through baby steps?
Which platform do you like to use? Which one of these?
ChatGPT is the one I have used.
Okay, so I want, like, you don't know me, so I want you to know I'm not saying this with an ounce of sarcasm, right? I want you to go this afternoon when you have some downtime and say exactly what you said to ChatGPT. Hey, Chat, I'm in the early stages of understanding AI. My DMO is an expert at this. If you were the head of a DMO who was charged with bringing the entire organization up to speed on AI, what would you do? Bear in mind, I like to learn visually. I have 20 minutes at a time, and I want to be markedly better today on Wednesday by next Monday, What can you teach me, right? And then see where it gets you and see what sources it gives you. I'm going to give you a real example. So you don't care about this, but it matters to what you're asking. There is a coding sequence having to do with how websites are found in AI called JSON. I'm not great with computer languages. So what I did is exactly what I told you. And then what I told ChatGPT, because I'm an audio listener, is after we did each lesson, give me 7 sources that reinforce that lesson. I took those 7 sources, I dumped it into Notebook LM, and then it gave me a 20-minute podcast with 2 made-up AI humans that talked to me like I was a person, and I would go for a walk. And slowly but surely, I'm never going to program in JSON, but slowly but surely, I started to understand web schema and how things are being found, right? So I would go straight to my favorite large language model, in your case, Chat, and just tell it that. And be super specific. Not enough people try and see how far you can go before it just doesn't know what you're talking about, right? And that's going to be important for you as you're learning. It's going to be a large learning curve, but if you tell it, you're a visual learner, you're an audio learner, you want to read things, or you want physical, like that's what I would do today. And tell it you're busy, so to your point, don't give me 4,500 pages to read, give me 15, 10-minute, 20-minute lessons, and next Wednesday, see where you are. Literally have it give you a quiz, right? Imagine you have access to every amount of information on the planet right now, because you do, right? And play there. Does that make sense? Cool. Go ahead.
So as we put the prompts into ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and Gemini and ask those questions that you suggest we ask, how do we track down the inaccuracies? So what's the best way or the easiest way? I mean, now Gemini is giving sources of where the information is coming from, but what's the most efficient way, I guess, to track down where the misinformation is to make it more accurate?
So I'm not sure I've got a great answer for the best way to do that, but here's what I would do. Is I would task myself to iterate on those inaccuracies. So let's say we queue all those human beings and there's one, let me give you an example bear with me, I'll give you an example from Michigan. ChatGPT becomes publicly available in November of 2022. I join immediately because we do a lot of work in the travel space. I want to see what's happening here. Mackinac Island is a large client for us in the Midwest, okay? There was a gentleman in 2016 or 17 who played a practical joke on Facebook where he created an image long before you could do this easily with AI. He photoshopped an image that said that Mackinac Island was anchored to the floor of the lake, and that's why it didn't move. And it got millions upon millions upon millions of hits, right? So from November 22nd to about November 23rd, you're not going to like this answer, but for a year, if you asked ChatGPT that question, it would tell you unequivocally that the island was changed to the bottom of the lake, right? Until it got enough pieces of information to tell it that that was complete garbage, and it connected, because remember early on, you weren't connected to real-time internet results, right? In 2022, it was just a library of information, so it was just pulling all that stuff in. So as they were getting updates, right, it would get better. I imagine that window is smaller, but I would set up a cadence to have a team member whose job it is to audit once a month and look for those so that you are found. And more importantly than the annoyance of it not being factually correct is what happens when a traveler comes here and it doesn't meet their expectation. What if the inaccuracy is something they would really like? When you get off the airport, they give you free chowder, right? Like that doesn't happen, right? But I'm saying like there could be an inaccuracy in there that would be a detriment to somebody coming here who would be bummed. And you wouldn't want that, right? So that's what I would do, because there is no quick fix. You can't, I've got a couple minutes, I'll be quick. When you're dealing with ChatGPT or Claude, it doesn't remember you in the same way that Spotify doesn't remember you, right? It's just making predictive guesses. So you can't go to an LLM and say that is wrong, because all it will say is, oh, good catch, or something like that, right? So what I would do is audit monthly and then figure out how to make more content to answer the question properly. And focus on things like Google. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. No, when you're.
Yeah.
So my burning question is, you said Siri's integrated with Gemini.
Apple Maps was only delivering Yelp data for restaurants, which is not great. Does that mean that Siri will be using Maps data for results?
I don't know the question of that, but I would guess yes, because I think what you're seeing is Apple and Meta went in the wrong, right? Like, not to get on but Zuck went after the metaverse and spent all of that time doing the metaverse, and he can't catch up. And Apple Siri has been an awful AI experience, So I would imagine, even though that they're frenemies, they don't really like each other, that would be a good move, especially if you wanted, if it were me and I wanted ways to not exist, that is what I would do, right? Is go, Google Maps are now in Apple, right? There, and then I'll go back there, and then I'll go to you.
You mentioned that this is the worst that AI is going to be. Obviously, there's a tension there with optimizing for the worst that AI is going to be. Are you aware of anything that we should just not be even attempting to address because of advancements that are going to be happening?
Can you be more specific? I love that question, but be more specific.
So like, doing a website audit is obviously very important right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good step. But there may be, it seems that AI is always like, oh, this version of AI is completely obsolete right now, and so like doing all the work for some other area.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So his question is like, if you're optimizing your website, what things should I not optimize because this is as bad as AI would be? And I would say have a compass, not a map, for any automations that you're building, right? That's a place where I would want to wait and see how this stuff settles out a little bit, as opposed to wasting or playing a whole bunch of time in Claude and using something like a make.go to create AI infrastructure for my organization. I might focus on the consumer first, because that would be more important to me than optimizations that might slow us down or be outdated quickly. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm not a DMO, but
I'm sorry, you're going to have to.
I did talk with a colleague this morning that had a phone call yesterday that lasted over an hour after someone called who had gotten a lot of information about visiting Boston, for example, or it was Boston, that the itinerary that the AI spit out to them was all over the map, and they thought that they could do all these things that were the best things to do in Boston. And it was so untrue that, like, literally my colleague was on the phone with them for an hour trying to tell them about how to visit these places that they were told to visit. What do we do about that?
So there's two things. One, we know that travelers can be difficult, right? But the other thing is, I would see that as an opportunity and go, okay, I know what it messed up. I know it was an hour. I know it's probably exhausting, all of those things. I would immediately turn to a team member and go, make me itineraries that answer these questions. And then I want you to put them on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and whichever channel they take off on, I want to put $1,000 on them right now. I want to own this space. That's what I would do, because there's nothing you can do, right? Like at this point, wherever that came from or whatever, I don't know it doesn't matter what it is, but I would see that as an opportunity, and also know that like we all work in this space. There's some human error that we have to deal with that can be obnoxious sometimes, right? But that's what I would do. Go ahead.
In terms of content, where should we prioritize what spaces we should be in? Like, obviously website, obviously social, but like, is it the Reddits? Is it creating YouTube Shorts? Is it focusing on the amount of volume of Google reviews? Like, where should we focus our energy?
My answer to that tends to be where the people. Sorry. Her question was essentially, where should we put our resources in order to build content, essentially, right? So we got to build our website. Now, where do I go? And my answer to that is wherever the people are, right? So let me give you an example in my life. I know in my personal brand very specifically what videos take off on TikTok versus what videos take off on YouTube. And I can do that to some, no one understands the algorithm, but to some specificity, I know what goes where, right? So I would start there. Where are we getting the most interactions? Where are we getting the most conversions? What does GA4 tell us about where people are coming from? And work backwards to that, and give myself the grace to know that even though I had a long list of platforms you should be on, I would not be on all of them, right? Most DMOs are small teams. Pick places where we can win, and then make a case to hire a person to do a new thing, right?
And like in terms of indexing though, like are there some platforms that AI likes to index
Oh, right now, so that's ever changing, but right now it indexes off Reddit, it indexes off YouTube, it indexes off blogs, it indexes off of written reviews because it doesn't like video, right? So it's not finding the influencers, and Wikipedia, right? It loves text. And so Reddit might be a place where I don't know, as a brand, I would get in there because it gets a little, they don't really like brands at Reddit. Right. But I would be a lurker and use it as a chance to do, an anthropologic study of my location and see what they're saying. And so that I know that I'm indexing on Reddit and go, okay, this is how they view the world and how I can adapt to that. I would index, if you're asking where do you index for AI, right now it's text. So I would start at Reddit, I would start with, Wikipedia, and I would start looking at people that do written reviews of travel to your DMO.
I'm a marketing and comms person at a nonprofit museum here in Boston. And we, of course, have put a heavy emphasis on SEO and Google Ads. And we're still continuing with that.
Yep.
But I'm just curious, we have good content, we put an emphasis on that. I'm just curious where you think something like SEO and page optimization from that perspective, where that's going to go. In its current state, that's why I said about we're still measuring traffic. Good SEO is good SEO right now. What I would be thinking about though is the amount of work that you put in to be an expert in SEO. Who on your team is watching, and they're using 900 algorithms, or acronyms, right? Who is watching AEO or GEO, right? The answer engine optimization or the generative AI, whatever we're gonna call it. Who's the person who's got an eye on that and can look for basics win championships, right? What are the things that we can pull from SEO into AEO in order to be found? That's what I would be doing. I would not abandon the work that you've done to be found because people are still using these platforms. But I would take somebody who's awesome at SEO and go, hey, go figure this out now, right? You've done amazing work for us right now. Now I need you to crack this nut over here, right? Go ahead. I've got 5 minutes, so I'll go you, and then I'll break that, but go ahead.
Just two quick things. I know for us, when we run into misinformation and we see it in a prompt or
Sure.
a question,
Yep.
you can then ask it where it got that information
Yep.
from. And I've found a lot of sources that I've had to.
That's a great point, yeah.
'Cause you can-
Did you get that in the back? So he said they have reverse engineered. So when it gives them a bad answer or misinformation, they ask where did it come from to kind of chase it down the other way, right? And sometimes that will work, not in all cases, but that's a great point.
And then the other question I had for you, with this industry specifically being image and media heavy, but them not being friendly to that, what do you feel the role of alt text is now, and how important is it?
I think it's equally important knowing that humans only want to see the pretty pictures and that the computer wants to read the text. So what we're working with people, even in my own team, is that every time we make a video, that video becomes a blog. Every time we make a podcast, that podcast becomes a number, right? So that we're just taking the stuff that we're already doing and scaling it in a direction, but thinking, I'm now writing for two people.
But the general accessibility of alt text and making sure that you're using the right keywords in the alt text now has
Yep.
changed.
Yes.
And just knowing how to do that specifically, and we represent a lot of creative people, so I'm always making sure that all the alt text has the photographer or the videographer credits in it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they're discoverable through this
Yep.
because they can't see it.
Correct. Yes. Awesome.
So, question about the SEO that you mentioned, we also use Google AdWords.
Yep.
I found that our hits have gone way down in the last 9 months. And
Sure.
we haven't changed anything. Is there something happening differently on the back end that is causing that? Is there a way that we can fix that?
I don't necessarily know that there's something different on the back end. What that would indicate to me is that your audience is probably a little ahead of the curve on using AI answers. And so they're not using your AdWords and they're not using your search terms. They're either getting it straight from Gemini when they do the search and don't go anywhere, or they're using something else. So if I'm you, like I just said 10 minutes ago, I might prompt ChatGPT right now while I'm on stage, right? Like I might think about that right now. All right, I have to jump off stage. So with that though, any questions, or if you want the deck, all the information is up there. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy what's left of the conference. Have a great day.
think of the artwork from the Boom